giving a fan his middle finger to being hated by an entire city. These are the most hated players in NBA history, and one of the most hated players in the NBA is Kyrie Irving.
I think Kyrie Irving should retire. I have an issue with Kyrie Irving. I think that he's occasionally selfish. At this particular moment in time, he comes off as a damn snob.
When he first came into the NBA, he was the savior the Cavaliers desperately needed. With LeBron Miami bound, Kyrie came in and gave the fans something to cheer about.
What a move by Kyrie Irving.
He became their electrifying young star, and when LeBron came back to Cleveland to team up with him, they pulled off the greatest win in NBA history.
The Golden State Warriors have handed the Cleveland Cavaliers their first loss at home in the postseason, and they take a commanding 3-1 lead.
Kyrie Irving does it again. He's got 33.
Oracle Arena is alive and roaring as we get set for Game 7.
He's picked up by Steph Curry, 6 to shoot. He's at the right point. He stutter steps. He launches a 3. Hey! Nailed it!
This cemented Kyrie as one of the greatest Cavaliers of all time, and he would take them back to the finals the very next year in 2017. But this would be the very last game Kyrie would wear a Cavaliers jersey.
Boston and Cleveland are getting close on a deal that would send Kyrie Irving to the Celtics.
Kyrie was ready for the next step of his NBA career, being the best player on a championship team and stepping out of LeBron's shadow. With one of the best point guards in the NBA and 2 up-and-coming stars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it seemed like the Celtics were ready to be the next NBA dynasty. Even after 2 disappointing years, Kyrie still promised the entire city of Boston that he'd be back.
You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
But for the second time in his career, Kyrie shocked everyone and made his way back to where he grew up, joining forces with Kevin Durant. Kyrie became the most hated man in Boston after breaking the hearts of the entire city, and when he finally made his return, the fans booed him like no one has ever been booed before. And Kyrie responded like a true villain.
Such a beautiful shot, turns, and the middle finger salute to one of the fans. He'll get fined for that.
And throwing up middle fingers wasn't enough, because he took to Twitch and told Celtics fans how he really felt.
Go back to Cleveland, we good. Boston hates you. We good. That's how y'all sound to me, cockroaches.
His first few years in Brooklyn was filled with losing in the playoffs every year, but his problems were just getting started. During the 2021 NBA season, every player had to be vaccinated because of the COVID-19 outbreak, and when Kyrie didn't want it, he was only able to play in away games, and this caused him to only play in 29 games that season, and being swept by the same team he had just left. The next season, he was suspended 8 games for an offensive video he shared on social media, but being suspended for 8 games was just the start of Kyrie's problems. Even after apologizing, it didn't matter. It was too late. After being a Nike athlete and having a signature shoe since 2014, it was all gone in an instant. Nike co-founder Phil Knight said Kyrie stepped over the line. It's kind of that simple. But Kyrie didn't seem to be bothered, coming up with ways to wear his own shoes without showing the Nike logo. All of this was topped off with the Nets not wanting to give Kyrie a max contract after everything they've been through. And it all came to an end with Kyrie requesting a trade that would end up putting him on the Mavericks. But before Kyrie was even in the NBA, his future teammate became the most hated man in sports. In high school, LeBronJames was a hometown hero, gracing the cover of Sports Illustrated, Slam, and more. He was the chosen one and was drafted to his hometown Cavaliers with the #1 pick in the 2003 NBA draft. He went on to win Rookie of the Year and quickly became one of the best players in the league. In just his second season, he was already named an All-Star and was breaking every record possible. 2007 is when he made his first NBA Finals, coming up short and getting swept by the San Antonio Spurs. It felt like LeBron was the only player on his team. The second highest scorer only averaged 12 points per game, but this was a trend for LeBron on the Cavaliers, losing to the Celtics in 2008, Magic in 2009, and Celtics again in 2010. This was after being the #1 seed and winning back-to-back MVPs in 2009 and 2010. But it was in 2010 when LeBron had had enough.
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
As soon as those words left his mouth, LeBron became the biggest villain in NBA history.
He deserves everything he gets. I hope he never wins anything in Miami. He is dead to me. I hope that LeBron doesn't win a championship in Miami, and I hope we come back stronger next year and we win the NBA championship.
And he goes to Miami, where the most fickle fans are? This is terrible. This is the worst thing that could ever happen to Cleveland since Modell taking the Browns away.
He was hated by the entire state of Ohio and most of the NBA because LeBron created the greatest super team of all time, and they promised everyone they would win some rings.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
When he made his return to Cleveland, the arena was sold out, and it became one of the most dangerous games in NBA history, with fans threatening his life and holding up signs that got them kicked out of the game. But after being the most hated man in the NBA, in his second year with the Heat, he finally did it. He accomplished the one thing he was after, and even though his hometown hated him, the NBA hated him, and he had become the biggest villain in NBA history, it was all worth it. Now, the entire world hated LeBron, but there's only one player who might have been hated more, because it's one thing to create a super team, but it's a whole nother thing to join the greatest team of all time. In 1996, the Chicago Bulls broke the record and won 72 games in 1 year, and finished it off by winning the NBA Finals. The record was thought to be unbreakable, and it took exactly 20 years, but the Warriors, led by their MVP Steph Curry, would finally break it, winning 73 games. Everyone thought the Warriors were going to walk through every team in the playoffs, but in the Western Conference Finals, they were down 3-1 to the Kevin Durant-led OKC Thunder. The Warriors strung together 3 wins in a row, and Kevin Durant blew the 3-1 lead. They went on to the finals and blew their own 3-1 lead to LeBron and the Cavs, but just when everyone thought the NBA season was over, just 18 days later, NBA fans had a new player to hate.
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant heading to the Golden State Warriors.
The weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar. Plain and simple. That's just how I look at it.
Kevin Durant had just won an MVP in 2014 and joined the team that beat him in the playoffs just a month ago. They had the 2-time MVP Steph Curry, All-Stars Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and just became the greatest team of all time, winning 73 games, now adding one of the greatest players of all time. The entire NBA hated Durant, including everyone who had his jersey.
Screw KD. Screw KD.
No longer
Traitor.
Thunder.
Yo, KD. This is where you belong, bro. Let's go.
That shit garbage, bro.
You're garbage.
Nasty don't play no games with KD. KD.
But fans went a lot farther than burning jerseys. With nicknames like Snake and Cupcake, he was getting bullied by everyone, even Peyton Manning.
And our gymnastics team was so dominant that Kevin Durant told me he wants to play for them next year.
And KD had enough. No one was defending him, so he took matters into his own hands, making burner accounts on Twitter so he could defend himself without letting anyone know it was him. Man, I respect the hell out of you, but give me one legitimate reason for leaving OKC other than getting a championship. He didn't like the organization or playing for Billy Donovan. His roster wasn't that good. It was just him and Russ. Imagine taking Russ off that team. See how bad they were? KD can't win a championship with those cats. There was just one problem. Instead of a random fan tweeting and defending KD, it turned out to be KD himself. He was logged into his main account instead of his burner, and by the time he realized and deleted the tweets, it was too late. The internet already found out, and NBA fans hated him even more.
KD Trey 5, follow me here. You're a weak ass, candy ass, flopping. You need vaginal reconstruction surgery, twig boy. You can eat a big bag like your butt buddy Curry. Yourself, you cheat.
KD admits he still has burner accounts to this day, so next time you're arguing with someone on Twitter, it may be Kevin Durant. KD might have formed the greatest team of all time, but this next player refused to play on his own team. Ben Simmons was drafted #1 overall to the Philadelphia 76ers in 2016. He was seen as one of the best prospects ever. He could defend all 5 positions and was one of the best passers as soon as he entered the NBA. The only thing he couldn't do was shoot the ball. Defenders could just sit in the paint as he dribbled the ball. They weren't even a little bit afraid of him shooting. That's gotta be the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. But that didn't stop the 76ers from being the #1 seed in the 2021 playoffs. They were trying to win their first ring since 1983, but in Game 7, with the score 88-86, Ben Simmons made a pass that made him the most hated man in Philly. Instead of taking a layup against the smallest man on the floor, Ben Simmons passed it up. This led to them losing the game. Fans hating him, his teammates hating him, and everyone wanting him gone.
I don't care about that man, honestly. He does whatever he wants.
That summer, Ben completely disappeared. He wanted nothing to do with his team or the city of Philly. Next season, he stayed away from the team all of preseason and training camp, and when he finally showed up, he started missing games, focusing on his mental health. He didn't like how anyone was treating him, so he started forcing his way out of Philly, sitting out games, and finally requesting a trade. But he had just signed a 5-year, $170 million extension in 2019, so every game he sat out, the Sixers decided to fine him, and he ended up being fined $19 million for not suiting up with the team. Finally, after being fined millions of dollars and being the most hated man in Philly, on February 10th, he was traded in one of the biggest trades ever that would send him to the Nets and James Harden to Philly, ending his career with the 76ers. But the man who ended Ben Simmons' career is also the most hated man in New York. Trae Young has been a villain ever since he was in high school. During the biggest high school game in his career, the crowd was chanting overrated while he was getting double teamed the entire game. He still scored 42 points and bowed to the crowd, but this wouldn't be the last bow in his career. Trae Young was drafted 5th to the Mavericks and then traded to the Hawks for Luka Doncic in the 2018 draft, but it took all the way until 2021 for Trae Young to finally make his playoff debut. Trae and the Hawks would be facing off against the New York Knicks, and it was the first time the Knicks were in the playoffs since 2013, so the diehard fans were ready to make it impossible to win at the Garden. In Game 1, Young destroyed his defender and hit a floater to win the game. He also pulled out the crowd silencer and told the fans as quiet as in here. And after all that, Trae became the ultimate villain in New York.
Suck my Trae Young! Suck my Trae Young! Yo, Trae Young looks like my dad's
with fans booing, threatening, and even spitting on him. I mean, they actually spit on him. That's a little too far, but fans kept on going, even creating their own chants.
It's a 9-0 New York run to lead by 9.
The Knicks only won one game, and to close out the series with the game already over, Trae shot from the logo and took a bow, sending the fans back home. But when Trae returned to the Garden next season, Knicks fans didn't forget about him. He was booed every time he touched the ball and would yell at him every moment they got. And to break the hearts of all Knicks fans again, Trae broke Taj Gibson's ankles and hit a cold-blooded jumper. He dropped 45 points and 8 assists. He had to show New York one more time that there was nothing they could do.
Were the boos as loud as you expected them to be tonight?
Nah, I couldn't really hear him for real. It wasn't even that loud, to be honest with you.
And it doesn't matter what sport it is, whether it's basketball or baseball, Trae Young will always be the most hated man in New York. But at least Trae Young is only hated by the city of New York. This next player is hated by the entire NBA. It all started in a playoff series with the Grizzlies and Warriors. Gary Payton was going up for a layup and got fouled hard by Dillon Brooks. Payton broke his elbow, Brooks was ejected and suspended for the very next game. And during his post-game interview, Steve Kerr had some words for Dillon.
Guy comes in and whacks him across the head in midair. He broke the code. Dillon Brooks broke the code. That's how I see it.
This sparked a Warriors-Grizzlies rivalry, and it was all topped off by Draymond Green. This was the beginning of Dillon Brooks' path to becoming one of the most hated players in the NBA. He had an incident with his old teammate Mike Conley, another one against the Lakers with Shannon Sharpe, and the worst one yet, against the Cavaliers, when Dillon hit Donovan Mitchell where no man wants to be hit. If he hit me like that, I'm fighting him too. Brooks was suspended for 1 game, but Donovan got fined $20K for getting hit in the nuts. Now that's just crazy. However, Brooks wouldn't let his silly little suspension keep him from being the villain he truly is, because in the 2023 playoffs, he told everyone that he wanted to play LeBronJames and the Lakers. I wouldn't mind playing LeBron in a 7-game series. After losing game 1, he didn't have a lot to say, but after coming back and winning game 2, he had some words for LeBron.
I don't care, he's old. I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
LeBron had to put Dillon to sleep, beating the Grizzlies 4-2, and the Lakers fan let him hear it every time he touched the ball. But by far the most embarrassing thing out of all of this is his own team saying they don't want him. Dillon Brooks will not be back under any circumstance. They didn't need to do him that dirty, but when the NBA did players dirty was when they completely banned them. Check out players banned by the NBA.